Hey, what's up everybody? It's Nova, and today's video we're going over a new adjustment to the raid build. If you watched my video a couple weeks back, it was mostly catered around the initial builds that were going out for the first maybe 2 weeks or so. But now that we've got gear, there's going to be a little bit of change to the normal builds that we're running, and I'm going to go over those, what you kind of want to shift. It's fairly similar, but I'll show you the differences, what you're going to need to keep in mind, and just the general rotations once more. As far as gear goes, the biggest thing is you're going to try to prioritize mastery, make sure you have a decent amount of crit, and then haste. If I could adjust my stats how I'd want it, I'd try to probably bump this maybe like 29, drop this to 9, and try to get this up to like 52 if I could with my gear currently. If you haven't got your trinket from Grim Batol yet, that's probably your best in-slot trinket. So hopefully you can get that. It's really, really good. So initially when the raid first came out, we did not pick up Resounding Clarity. This is what we ran. We doubled up in lethality just because we didn't have a lot of stats on our gear, so trying to get extra crit was kind of helpful. We also didn't run Sanguine Blades. We were pretty much trying to just use as much energy as we can, get as many attacks out as we can through Vicious Venoms, which was kind of like adding nature damage. But that's kind of shifted as of late. We have more stats on our gear now as we get higher item level, so our stat weights are a little bit better. And so what we're actually running now are variants of picking up Resounding Clarity. We still can keep 1 in lethality, so we keep that extra % crit. But now we get the bonus of having a couple combo points animal charged instead of just 1. And then over here, we're actually going to remove Vicious Venoms. And what we're going to do is pop into Sanguine Blades. So this essentially frees you up for 1 extra point somewhere. And that's going to depend on the type of boss you're doing. So in general, if there's any ads or like small ads, you're going to want to go where you're going to Phantom Knives. You're going to want to go into Throne Precision. If there aren't any ads, this one's kind of up to you. You can try to get a little bit of additional nature damage. You could try to increase your weapon application rate. So this will help with like your Kingsbane dots or your amplifying poison stacks. This over here will help your like mutilating ambush have some additional passive damage. Neither of which is going to be extremely huge, but it's more of a play style. If there are no ads, then I'll just pop 1 into Vicious Venoms. The next thing we're going to know is the other variants of this. So if there's a heavy cleave fight, so like Mythic Olgrax or something where there's a lot of ads, Broodmother, for example. Not as many people are using Crimson Tempest for this, but I actually like to play Crimson Tempest. I like it in Mythic Plus. And for Heroic Brood Twister, the one with the eggs, I like to run Crimson Tempest. And so what I normally do is we'll take off Sanguine Blades for this so that we can actually pick up Crimson Tempest. So when we have to go a little bit more AoE focused for those fights, we're going to lose out on Sanguine Blades. If we don't need like super heavy AoE, we can pop this back in. For single target fights like Sikrin and Kaiveza, you're going to get rid of this and just pop them into Vicious Venoms and obviously change back to Internal Bleeding because this is your single target talent right here and this is more for cleaving. So for bosses where it's single target and you need to cleave, it's probably better just the Caustic Spatter. So in short, the biggest change that you have to play around is Sanguine Blades. If you don't know how Sanguine Blades works, I'm going to show you really quick, and you're going to have to try to play around this as much as you can. You're not going to be able to play around it 100% of time in a raid boss fight, but the more you can play around it, the better extra passive damage you'll do. And this could range anywhere from like 5 to 7% extra damage, depending on how much you keep your energy above 50. So unlike the other build where we didn't have this and we didn't care, we just burned. When we play with Sanguine Blades, we are going to have to watch our energy. Thistle Tea is going to be more important. We're not going to just like use it to max back up. There's going to be certain times which I'll go over here in a second. But Sanguine Blades, whenever your energy is above 50% energy, your dots tick, it's going to consume 2 energy to basically duplicate 30% of any damage you deal with Crimson Tempest, Garrote, or Rupture. So this is really good passive damage. And when you start to learn the raid boss fights, you can start to plan ahead. So if you know you might have a mechanic you got to run out, you can get really close to 50%. Make sure you have longer dots on, and that way, as you're running away, your energy is above 50. It's recuperating, so when you get back, you'll have full energy, and it's giving you extra damage while you're off the boss. So real quick, I'm going to show you some general rotations to play off of this. So let me go ahead and apply. So for pure single target, you're going to run Internal Bleeding if there aren't any ads ever. If there are any type of ads you're going to want to cleave off, you're just going to go Caustic Spatter. So let's pretend we're just using Caustic Spatter, single target. You are going to want to use Amplifying Poison. This basically buffs your Envenom when you get 10 stacks and you use Envenom. Then Deadly Poison, and then Atrophic Poison just to help with damage reduction for your raid. And the opener is fairly similar as before. We're using Bone Spike. And so we'll ambush to get Deathstalker's Mark up, which is your main hero talent. If you're running Deathstalker's Mark, it's going to give you 3 charges. Once it goes away, the only way to get it back is use a full Envenom, full CP, so all your combo points have to be filled and use Envenom. Or if you use Resounding Clarity, or your Echoing Reprimand, sorry, and you use Envenom on an Anima Charge combo point, it will also refresh your Deathstalker's Mark. If you remember from my last video, it's very important to try to keep this up as much as possible, because Hunt Them Down damage will be about 7% of your damage if you can keep it up, which is free passive damage from your auto attacks. So your basic melee, they'll do 25k every time they hit, as long as you have that buff on them. So there are going to be times you won't be able to and you have to pick and choose, but having that up as much as possible is going to be very helpful. So that is pretty much the main thing here. And then Sanguine Blades is the second change that we got to start playing around and watching our energy. So in our openers for a burst phase with Lust, we're going to use Ambush to proc the Deathstalker's Mark. Then we'll Garrote and we'll Rupture. And remember, we'll get free combo points back because of Bone Spike. And so with those free combo points, we'll Slice and Dice. So I'll show you just the opener. Ambush, Garrote, Rupture, and then we got free combo points, we'll use Slice and Dice. This is our initial opener to get everything rolling. So from here, I like to Mutilate or Echoing Reprimand, depends on like if I know I might have to move soon. But let's pretend we have time, we're gonna Mutilate after that opener, and this is all like within that first opener. Once we get here, we're gonna use Envenom, Pop Potion, Thistle Tea to pop your boost your mastery, Shiv, Kingsbane, Death Mark, and then we burn here. We try to get as many Envenoms as possible. We're gonna Echoing Reprimand. We're gonna Shiv on the back half of 8 seconds of Kingsbane to buff it. Envenom again. Mutilate, Envenom again, and then we're gonna try to Vanish to get an improved Garrote on the tail end of Death Mark. So I did it really slow. So obviously some of the things were falling off, but if you do this without, stopping in between, you can get all of that going. And then we ended up on a Anima Charged combo point here where we could just hit a Envenom. The biggest thing is, remember, keep your Deathstalker's Mark up, so when you're attacking, this is free Hunt Them Down damage that you're getting. And now we have to be careful. I'm going to do that same opener, but now we have to try to keep in mind Sanguine Blades. Because if you burn all of your energy and you just dip below 50%, you're just wasting essentially a talent and free passive damage. So I'm going to show you this opener one more time. And now I'm going to show you how we stay above 50% energy when we're still burning, and how to kind of use your Thistle Tea to keep above that margin. And then when we enter into pulling phases. All right, so one more time before I actually show you on a target dummy, we're going to Ambush to get our Deathstalker's Mark up. We'll Garrote, Rupture, and then Slice and Dice. That's your first opener. From here, I like to Mutilate, Envenom if I know I have time. You could Echoing Reprimand to get like into your burst phase faster. But basically, Mutilate to get to full combo points. And then Envenom, pop your potions and Trinket. Thistle Tea to basically boost your mastery by 13% for 6 seconds. You Shiv, which is also going to boost your nature and bleed damage. And then you Kingsbane, Death Mark. So basically you have all your bursts going right here. And then we will go into Envenom spam mode. So if you didn't use Echo Reprimand, you would there. So you can get easy Envenoms. Or you're going to Mutilate, Envenom. And then you need to make sure that you use your second charge of Shiv on the back 8 seconds of Kingsbane. And then shortly after, you're going to Vanish and Garrote again to trigger improved Garrote. So that is pretty much your opener. And then we're going to weave in Thistle Teas to make sure that we stay above 50% during our opener. So here we're going to front load our Thistle Tea. Whereas the other spec we were playing before, we kind of saved them for like before pooling phases. Here we're going to front load them, and then you're going to have to enter pooling phases where you won't have Thistle Tea, and you're going to have to kind of slow down your rotation a good bit. The benefit is when you have to leave targets, this is where this build becomes a little bit better than the previous build. So here's the rotation, and I'm going to kind of go through it all so that you can see how we go into the pulling phases of this as well. So we're going to Ambush here, Garrote, Rupture, Slice and Dice, and then we're going to Mutilate, and we'll Envenom here, Pop Potion, Thistle Tea, Shiv, Death Mark, Trinket, Kingsbane, and now we're going to Echoing Reprimand, Envenom. Get one more. We can get one more here. Envenom, Shiv, Envenom again. We're gonna Vanish out. Garrote, Mutilate. Try to get a full one here. We need to go about 50% energy. We almost fell down there, so we're in this phase again. We need to get a Rupture. We don't want it to fall off, so we're gonna Rupture here. We still keep Envenom. We lost our Deathstalker's Mark, so we're gonna try to get that back. We're gonna Garrote here to get it full. We got our Deathstalker's Marks. And this is basically, we just try to use as many attacks as we can. If we're really good on energy, we want to use this a little bit earlier since we have 2 charges, around like 30 seconds. We need to just do one more time here to stay above. Get a Rupture up. Get a Road up. This is back. We can go back to Envenoms. Phantom Knives with Clear the Witness procs, which I'll explain here in a second. And essentially from here, now we have to be careful. We're almost out of Thistle Tea. We're going to go into pooling phase where we're going to wait for Envenoms to come back up. We're just going to track Garrotes. So this is about to fall off. I'm slowing down on purpose here to make sure that we stay above and we're getting that percent. Now we're going to save here. Let's say we're about to burst in a second. We're going to prep a Rupture. And now let's say we can burst. Well, we're going to Thistle Tea again, King's Bane, Envenom, and try to burst and get it out as many attacks as possible. We'll Garrote here, Shiv from the backside of King's Bane. We got to be careful. We have a free proc here. So we want to stay above 50. And this is the big key with playing this build, is you want to burst as much as you can, but you have to add this added rotation in of watching your energy while still maintaining your dots and your Deathstalker's mark. And so if we hop off really quick, we look at our damage. So Envenoms are obviously being buffed by our Amplifying Poison in this build. And Kingsbane obviously is going to be a high dot. Your Ambush, we got Blindside procs. This is in a long fight, so some of these will change. But if you hunt them down, we'll also like be a little bit higher, most likely somewhere around 6% of your damage. This is the free passive melee damage you get as long as you keep Deathstalker's mark on your target. All of this other stuff is kind of like extra procs. Corrupt the Blood is another interesting one. It's even more important on fights like Council, where there's like 2-target cleave. But essentially, you don't want your Ruptures to fall off. You want to try to keep your Ruptures and make sure you re-Rupture before your Rupture falls off, even if it's a shorter Rupture. And the reason being is Corrupt the Blood, Rupture deals an additional 2.5k plague damage each time it deals damage, stacking up to 10 times. So it's going to stack up, doing about 25k every time it deals damage. And when you have Ruptures on multiple targets and you keep this up, that's also an extra 50k per second that you're doing. It's really just passive damage that you can add to your total, especially over an 8-minute or 9-minute fight, as long as you just track your Ruptures to make sure they don't fall off. So this is passive melee damage if you got your Deathstalker's mark up. This is passive Rupture damage as long as you don't let your Ruptures fall off where they have to reset their stacks. Clear the Witness. I didn't really go into this. Essentially, what this is after your first application of Deathstalker's mark or reapplication, when you Phantom Knives, it's going to do more damage and give you a combo point. It's like a proc, essentially. It's pseudo mutilate. So your next Phantom Knives after applying Deathstalker's mark deals an additional 110k damage and generates 1 additional combo point. So it gives you 2 combo points. If you crit, you'll get the Steel Fate crit. It does about 110k damage, which is more than your mutilate. Mutilate costs 55 energy. Phantom Knives cost 35 energy. So it's a cheaper mutilate in that that moment. But again, it's only after your first one, after your first application or your reapplication. So if we have our Deathstalker's mark fall off, so let's just use them real quick. So, all right, so it's off. And now here's the trick with Echoing Reprimand, by the way. So it's on an Anima charge combo point. If I embed them there, I still get the mark. And then this is where you can Phantom Knives to get the proc. And so we got 3. It did damage and was cheaper than a mutilate. That is pretty much the rundown of this build iteration for single target. You're playing around Sanguine Blades. It's a little bit more micromanagement with your energy. You're going to feel like you're doing less, which technically you are because you're not using your abilities as often. But if you can time it around windows where you get up full bleeds, get as close as you can to 50% when you have to like run and do a mechanic or something like that, that's where you're going to get your damage makes up for it. And then also you're still doing solid damage here. I mean, it's an extra 4 or 5% damage that you're doing with this build too, as long as you're maintaining that. But yeah, guys, hope this helps. Give it a try. Good luck in your runs and your raid runs. And if you want to check out one of my recent kills with this build, check out this video. And until next time, guys, thank you so much for watching. Take care, everybody. See you next time.